I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home, carrying that pathetic grocery store cake, my heart filled with nervous excitement about turning 24. The white frosting had shifted slightly during the drive, and the plastic happy birthday decoration looked crooked, but I didn't care. After working double shifts at the warehouse for weeks, this modest celebration was all I could afford, yet it represented something important to me. I had been looking forward to this simple family gathering for months, imagining my parents singing happy birthday and sharing stories about my childhood. Walking up the familiar concrete steps, I noticed unusual activity through the front windows. My mother Margaret appeared at the door before I could knock her expression cold and dismissive. She glanced at my grocery store cake with visible irritation and delivered words that would shatter my world forever. "No celebration this year, Frederick. Your sister needs our complete attention." The cruel indifference in her voice made my stomach drop, as I realized I had become completely invisible in my own family. Standing on that doorstep holding my rejected cake felt like a physical blow to my chest. I watched my mother turn away without another word, leaving me frozen in place as the reality of her dismissal sank in. The sounds of frantic preparation echoed from inside the house with my father, Thomas, shouting instructions about flower arrangements, and my younger sister, Jessica, directing caterers around our modest living room. Through the screen door, I could see elegant white and gold decorations being hung across the ceiling, expensive floral centerpieces being positioned on tables, and my family rushing around like they were preparing for a royal wedding. Jessica emerged from the kitchen wearing a stunning emerald dress that probably cost more than I made in 2 months. Her blonde hair was professionally styled in an elaborate updo, and she wore diamond earrings I had never seen before. She spotted me through the door and rolled her eyes dramatically before walking past without acknowledgement. The contrast between her glamorous appearance and my simple work clothes made me feel even more out of place in my own home. I trudged upstairs to my childhood bedroom, still clutching that stupid cake, feeling more alone than ever before. The room remained exactly as I had left it years ago, with faded posters of basketball players and a twin bed covered in my old blue comforter. Sitting on the edge of that bed, I stared at the grocery store cake and wondered how I had become so irrelevant to my own family that they couldn't spare 5 minutes to acknowledge my birthday. The sounds of celebration continued downstairs as more guests arrived for Jessica's engagement party. I recognized the voices of aunts and uncles I hadn't seen in months, all of them laughing and congratulating Jessica on her upcoming marriage to Brandon Walsh, some hotshot attorney from the wealthy side of town. Nobody asked about me or wondered where I was during this family gathering. Feeling restless and hurt, I decided to pack some belongings to take back to my small apartment across town. As I pulled out my old duffel bag from the closet, I accidentally knocked over a shoebox that had been hidden under Jessica's former bed. The contents spilled across the hardwood floor, revealing a collection of official-looking documents that made my blood run cold. Bank statements showed my college fund, which should have contained $37,000, had been completely emptied 3 years ago. The transfer records clearly indicated the money went directly to Jessica's private art school tuition at Westmont Academy. My parents had told me the fund was lost in bad stock market investments when I desperately needed money for community college classes. I had spent the last 3 years working warehouse jobs and living paycheck to paycheck, believing my education fund had simply vanished through their poor financial decisions. But the documents revealed a more devastating truth. Jessica had received a full academic scholarship to Westmont Academy, meaning my stolen college money had paid for unnecessary expenses while she attended school completely free. The scholarship letter was dated 6 months before my parents claimed my fund was lost, proving they had deliberately lied to me while transferring my money to Jessica. My hands shook as I discovered more evidence of their deception. Birthday cards addressed to me from both sets of grandparents over the past 5 years had been opened and kept hidden in this box. Inside each card were cash gifts, ranging from $50 to $200, totaling over $2,000 that I never received. My parents had intercepted these birthday presents and apparently spent the money on Jessica's various needs and wants. The final blow came when I found a handwritten letter from my late grandfather, Robert, specifically stating that his vintage car collection should go to me upon his death 2 years ago. The letter detailed 3 classic automobiles worth approximately $15,000 total that were meant to help me start my adult life. Instead, I found sale receipts showing my parents had sold all 3 cars immediately after Grandfather Robert's funeral and deposited the money into Jessica's savings account for what they called art supplies and educational materials. Sitting on that bedroom floor surrounded by evidence of years of systematic theft and deception, I felt my entire understanding of my family crumble. They had not only stolen my financial future, but had actively worked to ensure Jessica received every possible advantage while I struggled alone. The depth of their favoritism went far beyond simple preference. It was calculated financial abuse designed to benefit one child at the complete expense of the other. The sounds of laughter and celebration from downstairs now felt like mockery. Here I was, discovering that my family had been robbing me for years, while they threw an expensive party for Jessica's engagement using money that should have supported my education and future. The irony was devastating. I had come home hoping for a simple birthday acknowledgement, only to learn that my own family had been systematically undermining my life for years. I gathered every piece of evidence from that shoebox and marched downstairs, my heart pounding with a mixture of rage and heartbreak. The living room was filled with about 30 people, all dressed in their finest clothes and holding glasses of champagne. Jessica stood at the center of attention, showing off her enormous engagement ring to a circle of admiring relatives. My parents moved through the crowd like proud hosts accepting congratulations on their daughter's successful match with Brandon Walsh. The contrast between this elaborate celebration and my rejected birthday cake sitting abandoned on the kitchen counter filled me with burning resentment. I waited until Jessica finished her ring presentation before stepping into the center of the room, holding the damning documents high enough for everyone to see. "I need to talk to all of you about something important," I announced loudly enough to cut through the party chatter. The room gradually fell silent as faces turned toward me with various expressions of annoyance and confusion. My mother, Margaret, looked mortified that I was disrupting Jessica's special moment, while my father, Thomas, stepped forward with obvious irritation. "Frederick, this is neither the time nor the place for whatever complaint you have now," Thomas said dismissively, his voice carrying the same tone he might use with a disobedient child. "Your sister is celebrating her engagement, and you need to respect that this day is about her happiness." "Funny you mention respect," I replied, my voice steadying as I held up the bank statements. "I just found these documents that show you transferred my entire college fund to pay for Jessica's art school tuition 3 years ago. You told me that money was lost in bad investments, but here's proof you deliberately stole $37,000 from my education to pay for hers." An uncomfortable murmur went through the crowd as relatives glanced between me and my parents. Jessica's face flushed red, but not from embarrassment. Instead, her expression showed pure anger that I was causing this scene during her celebration. Margaret stepped forward with her chin raised defiantly, showing no trace of shame or regret. "Frederick, you have always been the independent one in this family. We made decisions that we believed would benefit everyone in the long run. Jessica needed more support because she had greater potential for social and professional success." The casualness of her admission hit me like a physical blow. She wasn't even trying to deny the theft. Instead, she was justifying it based on their assessment of our respective worth as human beings. Greater potential. I repeated, hardly believing what I was hearing. "So you decided I didn't deserve the money my grandparents saved for my education because you thought Jessica was prettier and more likely to marry, well, Thomas nodded without hesitation, as if this logic was perfectly reasonable. Son Jessica has always had natural advantages that you lack. She's more socially gifted, more attractive, and frankly more likely to achieve the kind of success that reflects well on our family. We invested in the child who could give us the best return on our efforts. The words hung in the air like poison, and I watched several relatives shift uncomfortably at this brutal honesty. My own parents had just admitted in front of their extended family that they considered me the inferior child who didn't deserve equal treatment or investment. Return on investment, I asked, my voice rising. I'm your son, not a business decision. And what about these birthday cards from Grandma Rose and Grandpa William? You've been stealing cash gifts addressed to me for years. I held up several opened envelopes, and I saw my grandmother Rose gasp in shock from across the room. She had been sending me birthday money faithfully, believing her gifts were reaching me when they were actually funding Jessica's shopping sprees. Jessica finally spoke up, her voice dripping with contempt and superiority. Frederick, you should be grateful we kept you fed and housed all these years. Most families would have kicked out such an ungrateful, selfish person by now. Instead of complaining about ancient history, maybe you should thank us for supporting you through your pathetic warehouse jobs. Her words revealed something even more disturbing than my parents' theft. Jessica not only knew about the stolen money and hidden gifts, but she felt entitled to them. In her mind, I should be grateful for the basic care that parents owe all their children, while she deserved every financial advantage they could provide. Ancient history. I replied, pulling out my grandfather's letter about the car collection. What about Grandfather Robert's vintage cars that he specifically left to me in this letter? I just found receipts showing you sold them and gave Jessica the $15,000 for art supplies. The room fell completely silent now, and I could see several relatives looking genuinely shocked at the scope of my family's deception. My grandmother Rose had tears in her eyes as she realized how thoroughly she had been lied to about my character and situation. Margaret's composure finally cracked slightly as she realized how bad this looked to their guests. Frederick, you're causing a scene and embarrassing your sister on one of the most important days of her life. If you can't be supportive of this family, then maybe you should leave and figure out your own path forward. Figure out my own path. I laughed bitterly. I've been figuring out my own path for years while you systematically stole every advantage I should have had. You took my education fund, my birthday money, my inheritance, and then told everyone I was the ungrateful one. Thomas stepped closer to me, his face red with anger. That's enough, Frederick. You will not ruin this celebration with your selfish complaints. Either apologize to your sister and join this party properly, or get out of this house right now. The ultimatum crystallized everything for me. Even confronted with undeniable proof of their financial abuse and emotional neglect, they were demanding that I apologize and pretend to be grateful. They wanted me to smile and celebrate Jessica's success, which was built partly on money stolen from my future. Looking around the room, I saw relatives who had witnessed this entire confrontation. Some looked sympathetic to my situation, but others seemed more concerned about the social awkwardness than the injustice I had suffered. Nobody spoke up to defend me or question my parents' admission of theft and favoritism. The most devastating realization was that Jessica's engagement ring probably cost more than all the money they had stolen from me combined, yet they couldn't spare 5 minutes to acknowledge my 24th birthday. I was standing in a room full of people celebrating my sister's happiness while completely ignoring the systematic abuse that had funded her advantages. You know what? I said, finally, my voice calm, but filled with resolve. You're absolutely right. I should figure out my own path forward, and that path starts with getting as far away from this toxic family as possible. I turned to leave, but Jessica's voice stopped me cold, with one final revelation that would change everything. By the way, Frederick, remember that job interview you had at Brandon's law firm last month? The one you were so excited about. I called ahead and told them you had anger management issues and a history of workplace conflicts. I couldn't risk having my embarrassing brother working at my fiancé's prestigious firm. The admission hit me like a thunderbolt. That job interview had been my best opportunity for career advancement in years. I had prepared for weeks, researched the firm extensively, and felt confident about my qualifications. When they rejected me without explanation, I spent weeks wondering what I had done wrong during the interview process. Now I knew the truth. Jessica had deliberately sabotaged my career prospects to protect her own social standing. She had actively worked to keep me trapped in dead-end jobs while building her own success on stolen money and family connections. I left that confrontation and went straight to my bedroom feeling more isolated and betrayed than ever before in my life. Through my window, I could hear the party resuming downstairs as if nothing had happened. The sounds of laughter and celebration felt like salt in fresh wounds, reminding me that my family could return to their joy immediately after crushing my spirit. Sitting on my childhood bed, I stared at the evidence of their systematic abuse spread across my comforter. Bank statements, hidden birthday cards, inheritance documents, and receipts painted a picture of years of calculated theft designed to advantage Jessica while undermining my future. The scope of their deception was breathtaking in its thoroughness and cruelty. What hurt most was the realization that this wasn't accidental favoritism or temporary financial hardship. My parents had made conscious, deliberate decisions to steal from me repeatedly while lying about their actions and portraying me as ungrateful to extended family. They had created a false narrative where I was the problem child who couldn't appreciate their sacrifices, when the truth was that I had been systematically robbed of every advantage I should have received. Through my window, I watched guests arriving continuously for Jessica's engagement celebration. Cars filled our small driveway and lined the street, bringing relatives, family friends, and social connections who had come to honor Jessica's achievement. I recognized faces of people who had known me since childhood, yet none of them had asked about my absence from the party or wondered how I was doing in life. The more I observed the celebration below, the more I understood how completely my family had erased me from their narrative. These guests believed they were attending a family celebration, but they had no idea that one family member was upstairs nursing wounds from years of abuse and theft. My parents had successfully conditioned everyone to overlook my existence and focus solely on Jessica's accomplishments. Around 11 o'clock that evening, I watched my grandmother Rose arrive with a beautifully wrapped gift and a bright smile. She hugged Jessica warmly and congratulated my parents on raising such a successful daughter. Seeing her genuine happiness and pride made my heart ache, knowing she had been deceived about my character for years. She believed I was the ungrateful grandson who had abandoned the family, when the truth was that I had been systematically pushed out and robbed. The sight of Grandma Rose celebrating downstairs while believing lies about me became the final breaking point. I realized that staying in this environment would only lead to more pain and manipulation. My family had shown they were willing to steal from me, lie about me, and sabotage my career prospects to maintain Jessica's advantages. There was no scenario where this dynamic would improve or where I would receive fair treatment. I pulled out my phone and checked my bank account balance, $837. It wasn't much, but it represented every penny I had saved from my warehouse job over the past 6 months. This money was mine, earned through my own labor, and couldn't be stolen or manipulated by my family. Opening my laptop, I began researching bus tickets and job opportunities in distant cities. I needed to get far enough away that my family couldn't continue interfering with my life, but close enough to major employment centers where I could rebuild my career. Austin, Texas caught my attention because of its growing tech industry and lower cost of living compared to major coastal cities. As I researched Austin apartments and job listings, my phone buzzed with a text message from my old college friend Alex Chen, who had moved to Texas after graduation. The timing felt like fate. "Hey Frederick, hope you're doing well. My startup company in Austin is looking for someone with your customer service background. Entry level, but good growth potential." Interested. I stared at that message for several minutes, feeling like the universe was offering me a lifeline exactly when I needed it most. Alex had no idea about my family situation or the crisis I was experiencing. Yet his job offer represented everything I needed: distance from my toxic family, a fresh start, and an opportunity to prove my worth in an environment where I wouldn't be undermined. I immediately replied, "Very interested. Can you send me details? I'm looking to relocate soon." His response came quickly with company information and contact details for the hiring manager. The position was customer support for a tech startup called Innovate Tech Solutions, with potential for advancement based on performance. The salary was modest, but enough to support myself while building toward something better. Downstairs, the engagement party reached its peak with toasts and speeches praising Jessica's beauty, intelligence, and bright future. I heard my father's voice booming through the house as he told guests how proud he was of his daughter's success and how she represented everything wonderful about their family values. The irony was devastating. They were celebrating family values while having systematically abused and stolen from their own son. They praised Jessica's character while knowing she had sabotaged my career prospects out of pure selfishness. The disconnect between their public image and private actions revealed the depth of their hypocrisy. I began packing my belongings with methodical determination. Clothes, personal documents, a few sentimental items, and my laptop fit easily into 2 duffel bags and a backpack. The material evidence of my 24 years in this house was shockingly minimal, which somehow made leaving easier. As I packed, I composed a farewell letter explaining my departure. I wanted them to understand that I knew about all their lies and theft, but I also wanted to maintain some dignity in my exit. The letter was brief and factual, stating that I had discovered their financial abuse, understood their true feelings about my worth, and was leaving to build a life where I wouldn't be sabotaged or stolen from. I placed the letter on my pillow, where they would eventually find it along with copies of all the evidence I had discovered. They needed to know that I was aware of their actions and that their manipulation had been exposed. Around midnight, as the party finally wound down and guests began leaving, I loaded my belongings into my beat-up Honda Civic. The car was 12 years old, with over 200,000 miles, but it was mine earned through my own work and untainted by my family's manipulation. Starting the engine, I took one last look at the house where I had spent my childhood. Light glowed from the windows, where my family was probably cleaning up from Jessica's celebration, discussing what a wonderful evening it had been and how bright her future looked. They had no idea that I was disappearing from their lives forever. As I drove away from Millbrook, Ohio at 12:30 in the morning, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. I was leaving behind everything familiar and venturing into complete uncertainty. But I was also escaping a toxic environment that had been poisoning my life for years. At a gas station on the edge of town, I stopped to buy coffee for the long drive to Texas. Standing in the fluorescent-lit convenience store, I pulled out my wallet and found the few family photos I always carried. Pictures of Christmas mornings, summer vacations, and birthday celebrations from happier times when I believed my family loved me equally. Without hesitation, I threw those photos into the gas station trash can. They represented a false history, where I was valued and loved, when the reality was that I had been tolerated at best and systematically undermined at worst. Keeping those pictures would only remind me of illusions that had been shattered forever. Getting back into my car, I programmed Austin, Texas into my GPS and began the 9-hour drive toward my new life. The highway stretched endlessly ahead of me, dark and uncertain, but for the first time in years, I felt like I was moving toward hope instead of away from it. The drive to Austin took me through the heart of America, past small towns and endless farmland that looked nothing like the suburban Ohio landscape I was leaving behind. I drove straight through the night, fueled by gas station coffee, and the adrenaline of making the biggest decision of my life. When the Austin skyline appeared on the horizon at 8 in the morning, I felt like I was arriving in a completely different world. Alex met me at a downtown diner called Magnolia Cafe, and I was struck by how much more confident and successful he looked compared to our college days. He wore a crisp button-down shirt and spoke enthusiastically about the tech startup scene in Austin, describing opportunities and growth potential that seemed impossible from my warehouse job perspective. Innovate Tech Solutions is exactly the kind of place where hard work gets noticed quickly, Alex explained over breakfast tacos. The owner, Diana Martinez, built the company from nothing 5 years ago, and she promotes based on results, not politics or connections. If you can solve problems and improve systems, you'll advance faster than you ever could at a traditional corporation. The company occupied the second floor of a converted warehouse in East Austin, with exposed brick walls, standing desks, and an open layout that felt energetic and collaborative. During my interview with Diana, a sharp-eyed woman in her early 40s, I was honest about my background in customer service and my eagerness to learn technical skills. "I'm not looking for someone with perfect credentials," Diana told me. "I need someone who can think critically, communicate clearly with frustrated customers, and identify patterns in the problems we're solving. Technical skills can be taught, but problem-solving instincts are either there or they aren't." She offered me the position on the spot with a starting salary of $35,000, which was modest but enough to cover basic living expenses in Austin. More importantly, she outlined clear advancement opportunities based on performance metrics and skill development. I found a studio apartment in a converted house near the university for $600 a month. The space was tiny but clean, with hardwood floors, tall windows, and enough room for a bed desk and small kitchen table. After years of living in my childhood bedroom or sharing cramped spaces with roommates, having my own place felt like a luxury. The first few months at Innovate Tech were challenging but exhilarating. I handled customer support calls for small businesses using the company's project management software, troubleshooting technical issues, and explaining system features. Within weeks, I began noticing patterns in customer complaints and suggestions that revealed underlying problems with the software's user interface. Instead of just solving individual problems, I started documenting these patterns and proposing systematic improvements. I created detailed reports showing how minor changes to the software could prevent dozens of support calls and improve customer satisfaction scores. Diana noticed my initiative immediately. "Most customer support representatives just answer the phone and follow scripts," she told me during my 3-month review. "You're thinking like a product developer identifying root causes instead of just treating symptoms. That's exactly the kind of thinking that builds successful companies." She promoted me to Customer Success Analyst with a raise to $42,000 and additional responsibilities for improving customer retention rates. The promotion came with my own desk access to development tools and opportunities to work directly with the programming team. During this period, I maintained complete silence about my family situation. I changed my phone number, deleted my social media accounts, and avoided any contact with people from my hometown. Alex knew I had left Ohio for personal reasons, but I kept the details private while focusing entirely on building my new life. The isolation was sometimes difficult, especially during holidays when my coworkers talked about family gatherings and traditions. But I reminded myself that my biological family had never provided the support and encouragement I was now receiving from my colleagues. Diana became something of a mentor, offering career guidance and challenging me to develop skills I never knew I possessed. 6 months into the job, I proposed creating a comprehensive customer relationship management system that would track user behavior, predict potential problems, and automate routine support tasks. The proposal required significant research and technical planning, but I believed it could revolutionize how the company interacted with clients. Working evenings and weekends, I taught myself basic programming languages and database management through online courses and library books. The learning curve was steep, but every small breakthrough felt like validation of my abilities and potential. My breakthrough came when a major client complained about recurring billing errors that were costing them thousands of dollars in administrative time. Instead of offering standard troubleshooting, I analyzed their entire account history and discovered that our billing system had a flaw affecting customers with certain payment schedules. I developed a solution that not only fixed their specific problem, but prevented similar issues for hundreds of other clients. The fix saved the company an estimated $50,000 in potential lost business and customer support costs. Diana was so impressed that she brought me into a senior leadership meeting to present my findings. Standing in that conference room, explaining technical solutions to executives and programmers, I felt more valued and respected than I ever had in my family home. Frederick has identified a systematic issue that we didn't even know existed, Diana announced to the team. His solution demonstrates the kind of proactive thinking that separates good companies from great ones. This is exactly why we invest in people who show initiative and analytical skills. The company implemented my billing system fix and asked me to lead a broader project reviewing all customer support processes for similar inefficiencies. My role expanded again with another promotion to junior developer and a salary increase to $58,000. More importantly, I was gaining confidence and technical skills that opened doors to opportunities I had never imagined possible. The warehouse jobs in Ohio had felt like dead ends with no advancement potential, but this environment rewarded innovation and hard work with real career growth. Around my first anniversary at Innovate Tech, I learned through mutual acquaintances that Jessica's engagement had ended dramatically. Apparently, Brandon had discovered her secret shopping addiction and credit card debt totaling $25,000. He broke off the engagement when she couldn't explain how she had accumulated such massive debt while living rent-free at home. My parents were reportedly struggling to help Jessica pay off her credit cards while dealing with reduced income from my father's job insecurity. The financial strain of supporting Jessica's lifestyle was apparently causing significant stress in their marriage. Learning about their problems felt strange and distant, like hearing gossip about acquaintances rather than immediate family. I felt no satisfaction in their struggles, but also no urge to return and help them through their difficulties. They had made their choices about whose future to invest in, and now they were experiencing the consequences of those decisions. Instead of dwelling on their situation, I focused on my own continued growth. I enrolled in evening programming classes at Austin Community College and began developing a more sophisticated customer service automation platform that could potentially serve businesses beyond Innovate Tech. The technical challenges were exciting and challenging in ways that my previous jobs had never been. Every problem I solved and every skill I developed felt like building towards something meaningful and sustainable rather than just earning a paycheck. By the end of my first year in Austin, my net worth had grown to nearly $15,000 through careful saving and budgeting. More importantly, I had developed a professional network technical skills and career trajectory that promised continued advancement based on merit rather than family connections or political maneuvering. The transformation from warehouse worker to technology professional happened faster than I had ever imagined possible, but it required complete commitment to learning and proving myself in an environment where my past didn't matter. In Austin, I was judged solely on my abilities and contributions, which was all I had ever wanted from my family. During my second year at Innovate Tech, my customer service automation project evolved into something much larger than I had originally envisioned. The system I developed could analyze customer interactions across multiple channels, predict support needs before problems occurred, and automatically resolve common issues without human intervention. The breakthrough came when I realized that small businesses across multiple industries faced identical customer service challenges, but lacked the resources to develop sophisticated solutions. My automation platform could be adapted to serve restaurants, retail stores, professional services, and online businesses with minimal customization. I spent 6 months refining the software during my spare time, testing it with local Austin businesses, who agreed to pilot the system in exchange for free implementation. The results were extraordinary. Participating businesses reduced customer service costs by an average of 40%, while improving satisfaction scores and response times. Word about my platform spread through Austin's tight-knit small business community, and I began receiving inquiries from companies across Texas who wanted to implement similar systems. The demand was far beyond what I could handle as a side project while working full-time at Innovate Tech. Diana noticed my distraction and growing excitement about the automation project. Rather than being concerned about potential competition, she encouraged me to pursue the opportunity and offered to provide business mentorship as I developed my ideas. Frederick, you've identified a genuine market need and created a solution that could benefit thousands of businesses, she told me during a career planning discussion. Innovate Tech will always have a place for you, but entrepreneurship might be your true calling. If you decide to start your own company, I'll support you however I can. Her encouragement gave me the confidence to research business formation, intellectual property protection, and funding options for technology startups. The learning curve was intimidating, but every challenge felt manageable compared to the emotional abuse and financial theft I had overcome in my family situation. Through Austin's entrepreneurship network, I met Rachel Chen, a venture capitalist who specialized in early-stage technology companies. Rachel had built several successful businesses before transitioning to investment, and she was known for supporting founders who solved practical problems with innovative approaches. During our first meeting at a coffee shop downtown, I demonstrated my customer service automation platform using real data from pilot businesses. Rachel immediately grasped the potential market size and revenue opportunities. Small businesses spend billions of dollars annually on customer service that could be automated or streamlined, Rachel explained. Your platform addresses genuine pain points with measurable cost savings. The scalability is enormous because every business needs customer service, but most lack the technical expertise to optimize these processes. She offered to invest $200,000 in exchange for a 20% equity stake contingent on my commitment to leave Innovate Tech and focus full-time on building the company. The investment would cover software development, marketing, legal expenses, and 18 months of operating costs while we established the business. The decision to leave my stable job and pursue entrepreneurship felt terrifying and exhilarating simultaneously. I had spent 2 years building security and professional credibility, but this opportunity represented everything I had hoped to achieve through hard work and innovation. I gave Diana 6 weeks' notice and worked diligently to transition my responsibilities to other team members. She was genuinely excited about my entrepreneurial venture and offered to serve as an advisor and potential customer for my new company. You're making the right decision, Diana assured me during my final week at Innovate Tech. I've watched you grow from customer support representative to innovative developer in record time. Your work ethic and problem-solving skills will make this business successful, and you'll never wonder what might have been if you hadn't taken this risk. I named my company ConnectFlow and established offices in a shared workspace near downtown Austin. The environment was filled with other startups and entrepreneurs, creating an atmosphere of innovation and ambition that energized me daily. My first major decision was hiring Diana as Chief Operating Officer. She had expressed interest in leaving Innovate Tech to pursue new challenges, and her business experience complemented my technical skills perfectly. Together, we developed a comprehensive business plan, marketing strategy, and customer acquisition approach. The early months were intense and demanding, requiring 12-hour days and constant problem-solving as we refined the software and built our customer base. But every challenge felt purposeful and meaningful because I was building something that belonged to me and reflected my vision. Our first major client was a regional restaurant chain that operated 23 locations across Texas. They implemented ConnectFlow to handle reservation management, complaint resolution, and customer feedback analysis. Within 3 months, the chain reduced customer service labor costs by 38% while improving online review scores and customer retention rates. The success story provided credibility and referrals that accelerated our growth exponentially. Local business magazines featured ConnectFlow as an innovative Austin startup, and industry publications recognized our platform as a breakthrough solution for small business customer service automation. By the end of our first year, ConnectFlow had 47 active business clients and generated over $1 million in revenue. My personal net worth reached $300,000 through salary equity appreciation and careful financial management. More importantly, I had proven to myself that my family's assessment of my potential was completely wrong. They had believed Jessica was more likely to achieve professional success because of her social advantages and physical attractiveness. But I had built a profitable company based on intelligence, creativity, and determination. During this period of rapid business growth, I occasionally heard updates about my family through mutual connections in Ohio. Jessica had moved back home after her broken engagement and was struggling to find employment that matched her art degree qualifications. My parents' marriage was reportedly strained due to financial pressure and disagreements about how to support Jessica's continued dependence. My father, Thomas, had lost his middle management position due to company downsizing and was working temporary assignments that paid significantly less than his previous salary. My mother, Margaret's part-time retail job barely covered basic household expenses, and they were behind on mortgage payments. The contrast between my success and their struggles was striking, but I felt no desire to gloat or seek revenge. Instead, I focused on continuing to build ConnectFlow into a sustainable business that could support multiple employees and serve hundreds of clients. The most satisfying aspect of my success was earning respect and recognition based entirely on merit. My clients valued ConnectFlow because it solved their problems and improved their profitability, not because of family connections or social advantages. This validation meant more to me than any amount of money because it proved that hard work and innovation could overcome any disadvantage. Rachel's investment had been based on her confidence in my abilities and business potential. Diana had joined my company because she believed in my vision and leadership skills. Our clients recommended ConnectFlow to other businesses because they experienced tangible benefits from our services. This network of professional relationships built on mutual respect and shared success felt more valuable and meaningful than the family connections I had lost through my departure from Ohio. I was finally surrounded by people who appreciated my contributions and supported my continued growth. The transformation of ConnectFlow from startup to established business happened faster than I had ever imagined possible. During our second year, we expanded our customer base to over 200 businesses across 7 states, ranging from local restaurants to regional professional service firms. Our revenue grew to $4 million annually, and the company employed 15 people in various technical and support roles. My personal breakthrough came when Tech Global Industries, a major corporation that provided software solutions to Fortune 500 companies, approached us about acquiring ConnectFlow. Their executives had been monitoring our growth and were impressed by our customer retention rates and innovative automation features. The acquisition negotiation process lasted 3 months and involved detailed financial audits, technical assessments, and strategic planning sessions. Tech Global wanted to integrate ConnectFlow's platform into their existing product suite and leverage their massive sales network to reach enterprise-level clients. The final offer was $12 million for complete ownership of ConnectFlow, with additional performance bonuses if revenue targets were met over the following 3 years. After consulting with Rachel and Diana, I accepted the deal, which would give me $8 million after taxes, investor payments, and employee bonuses. Signing those acquisition papers felt surreal and overwhelming. 3 years earlier, I had left my family home with $800 and a beat-up Honda Civic. Now I was a millionaire at 27 years old, with more financial security than I had ever thought possible. The first thing I did with my newfound wealth was purchase a luxury penthouse apartment in downtown Austin, with panoramic city views and high-end amenities. The space was 10 times larger than my original studio apartment, with a gourmet kitchen, walk-in closets, and a home office overlooking Lady Bird Lake. I also bought a Tesla Model S and began traveling internationally for both business and pleasure. Visiting London, Tokyo, and Sydney opened my perspective on global markets and business opportunities, while providing experiences I had only dreamed about during my warehouse worker days. The acquisition made local business news with Austin magazines featuring my story as an example of entrepreneurial success in the city's growing tech sector. The articles described my rapid rise from customer service representative to millionaire business owner, though they didn't mention my family background or personal struggles. These publications were apparently discovered by people in my hometown because my family began learning about my success and attempting to re-establish contact. The first approach came through social media, where Jessica created multiple fake accounts to send me messages claiming she had grown and matured since our last interaction. Her messages were carefully crafted to sound remorseful and loving, describing how much she missed our relationship and regretted the misunderstandings that had driven us apart. She claimed to have learned from her mistakes and wanted to rebuild our sibling bond based on mutual respect and appreciation. What Jessica didn't realize was that her messages revealed her continued manipulation and self-centeredness. She described our conflicts as misunderstandings, rather than acknowledging her role in sabotaging my career or supporting our parents' financial abuse. Her apologies focused on how bad she felt, rather than recognizing the actual harm she had caused. My mother, Margaret's approach was more direct, but equally manipulative. She began leaving voicemails on my business phone number, which she had obtained through public records associated with ConnectFlow. Her messages claimed she had always believed in my potential, and that our family conflicts were based on communication problems that could be resolved through honest conversation. Margaret's revisionist history was breathtaking in its audacity. She portrayed herself as a loving mother who had always supported my ambitions, conveniently forgetting her admission that she considered Jessica more worthy of investment because of her social advantages. The voicemails made no mention of stolen birthday money, transferred college funds, or deliberate career sabotage. My father, Thomas, took a professional approach, reaching out through LinkedIn with messages praising my business accomplishments and suggesting we should reconnect as successful adults who had overcome youthful disagreements. His messages positioned our conflicts as normal family tensions that naturally resolved as people matured and achieved their goals. The coordinated nature of their outreach revealed that they had developed a strategy for winning me back, probably motivated by their own financial struggles and knowledge of my newfound wealth. Their messages arrived within weeks of each other, all using similar language about growth, forgiveness, and family bonds. I saved every message and voicemail they sent, but responded to none of them. Their sudden interest in rebuilding relationships coincided suspiciously with learning about my financial success, suggesting their motivations were more practical than emotional. Through my network in Ohio, I learned more details about their deteriorating situation. Jessica's credit card debt had grown to over $30,000 as she continued spending money she didn't have while living unemployed at home. She had applied for numerous positions, but struggled to find employers willing to hire someone with an expensive art degree and no practical work experience. My parents' financial problems had worsened significantly. Thomas had been unemployed for 6 months after his temporary assignments ended, and Margaret's retail job provided barely enough income to cover basic utilities. They were facing foreclosure on their home and had borrowed money from relatives to avoid immediate eviction. The irony of their situation was obvious, but not satisfying. They had spent years investing everything in Jessica's success while neglecting and undermining my potential, yet Jessica's advantages had produced no meaningful career or financial stability. Meanwhile, the son they had written off as less worthy had achieved more success than any of them had ever imagined possible. Their desperation became more apparent as their outreach intensified. Margaret's voicemails grew longer and more emotional, describing health problems and financial stress that could be resolved if their family could reunite. Jessica's messages became more frequent and personal, sharing memories of childhood moments when we had gotten along well. Thomas began sending newspaper clippings about my business success, along with handwritten notes expressing pride in my accomplishments. The notes carefully avoided mentioning our conflicts while emphasizing his role in shaping my work ethic and determination through childhood lessons. The most manipulative approach came when they involved my grandmother Rose, who called my office claiming she was dying and wanted to see me before passing away. The call was clearly orchestrated by my parents, but it represented a new low in their willingness to exploit family relationships for financial gain. I verified through other relatives that Grandma Rose was in good health and not facing any immediate medical crisis. Learning that they were willing to fake her death to manipulate me into contact confirmed that their current outreach was entirely self-serving rather than based on genuine remorse or love. Their desperation revealed the complete failure of their family investment strategy. They had stolen from me to support Jessica's education and social advantages, yet she had produced no return on their investment. Her broken engagement, unemployment, and mounting debt proved that attractiveness and social connections meant nothing without work ethic and practical skills. Meanwhile, the son they had dismissed as less worthy had built a multi-million-dollar business through intelligence determination and ethical behavior. My success had been achieved despite their sabotage, rather than because of their support, proving that their assessment of my potential had been completely wrong. As their financial situation continued deteriorating and their outreach became more desperate, I realized they were finally experiencing consequences for years of favoritism and abuse. Justice was being served not through any action on my part, but through the natural results of their own choices and character flaws. 2 years after the acquisition of ConnectFlow, I made a decision that would close the most painful chapter of my life forever. My family's financial situation had reached a crisis point, with foreclosure proceedings and mounting medical bills creating genuine hardship that extended beyond my immediate parents and sister. I had been monitoring their situation through mutual acquaintances and occasional Google searches, maintaining awareness without direct contact. The information I gathered painted a picture of people who were finally experiencing the consequences of years of poor decisions and character flaws. My father Thomas had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition that required expensive treatment, not fully covered by his limited insurance. The medical bills were pushing my parents toward bankruptcy, while they struggled to maintain their home and support Jessica's continued unemployment. Jessica herself had become increasingly isolated and depressed as her debt grew and employment prospects dwindled. Her art degree qualified her for very few positions that could support independent living, and her lack of practical work experience made her unemployable in most professional environments. The situation came to a head when I received a desperate letter from my grandmother Rose, who had finally learned the truth about our family conflicts. The letter was heartbreaking in its honesty and shame, as she described how my parents had manipulated her for years with false stories about my character and behavior. "Frederick, I am so ashamed of how I treated you at Jessica's engagement party," Grandma Rose wrote in shaky handwriting. "Your parents told me you had become selfish and ungrateful, that you refused to help family and only cared about yourself. I believed them because I trusted their word about their own children. Now I know they were lying to cover up their own terrible behavior toward you." She explained that other relatives had gradually revealed pieces of the truth about my stolen college fund, hidden birthday gifts, and the systematic favoritism that had driven me away. The full picture of my parents' financial abuse had finally become clear to extended family members who had been deceived for years. "I understand why you left and why you haven't returned," her letter continued. "But I also know that you are a good person with a kind heart despite everything they did to you. Your grandfather Robert would be so proud of the man you became, and he would want you to show mercy to people who need help, even if they don't deserve it." Reading that letter in my Austin penthouse, surrounded by the success I had built through my own efforts, I felt a complex mixture of vindication and sadness. My grandmother's acknowledgement of the truth validated everything I had experienced, but it also highlighted the cost of my family's dysfunction. I decided to return to Millbrook for the first time in 4 years, driving my Tesla through familiar streets that looked smaller and shabbier than I remembered. The town seemed frozen in time, while I had grown and changed beyond recognition. My childhood home showed obvious signs of financial distress. The lawn was overgrown, paint was peeling from the shutters, and a "for sale" sign stood prominently in the front yard. The house that had once represented stability and family connection now looked like a symbol of decline and failure. I drove to Murphy's Diner downtown, knowing it was a place where I might encounter family members or old acquaintances. Sure enough, my grandmother Rose was having coffee with 2 other elderly women when I walked through the door. Her face showed shock and joy when she recognized me. "Frederick." "Oh my goodness, look at you," she said, rising carefully from her booth to embrace me. The other women stared openly as Grandma Rose introduced me as her successful grandson, who owned a technology company in Texas. We sat together while she apologized repeatedly for believing my parents' lies and treating me poorly during my final years at home. Her remorse was genuine and painful to witness, and I assured her that I understood she had been deceived by people she trusted. "They told everyone you abandoned the family without explanation," Grandma Rose explained. "We thought you were selfish and ungrateful, that you couldn't be bothered to help during difficult times. Nobody knew about the money they took from you, or how badly they treated you." Our conversation was interrupted when my parents and Jessica entered the diner, having heard through small-town communication networks that I was back in Millbrook. Their appearance was shocking in its deterioration from the confident, well-dressed people I remembered from Jessica's engagement party. Thomas looked significantly older and thinner, his face gray with illness and stress. Margaret appeared worn down by financial worry and emotional strain. Jessica seemed the most changed, having lost the vibrant confidence that had once defined her personality. They approached our table hesitantly, unsure of their reception, but desperate enough to risk public rejection. The other diners watched with obvious curiosity as this family drama unfolded in their quiet restaurant. Frederick, my mother began carefully, "We've been hoping to talk with you. We know there were problems in the past, but we want to make things right between us." The word problems was such a massive understatement that I almost laughed. Their systematic theft and emotional abuse had been reduced to problems that could be resolved through conversation and goodwill. Making things right would require acknowledging what actually happened. I replied calmly, "Are you prepared to admit that you stole my college fund, hid my birthday gifts, sold my inheritance, and sabotaged my career prospects to benefit Jessica?" The directness of my question clearly shocked them, but they were too desperate to retreat. Thomas nodded reluctantly, while Margaret looked uncomfortable with my specific accusations. "We made mistakes in how we handled family finances," Thomas admitted carefully. "We thought we were making decisions that would benefit everyone in the long run, but we realize now that we hurt you unfairly." Jessica remained silent, staring at the table while her parents attempted damage control. Her inability to contribute to the conversation suggested she felt no genuine remorse for her role in my mistreatment. "The money isn't really the issue anymore," I explained. "I've been financially successful despite your sabotage, not because of your support. What matters is whether you understand why your behavior was wrong and whether you're capable of treating people differently in the future." I looked directly at Jessica, who finally met my eyes with a mixture of shame and defiance. "Do you understand that sabotaging my job interview was cruel and destructive? Do you recognize that your actions were designed to keep me from succeeding while you advanced through stolen advantages?" Jessica's response was barely audible. "I was scared that having you at Brandon's firm would embarrass me. I know it was wrong, but I was protecting my relationship." Her answer revealed that she still didn't understand the fundamental ethics of what she had done. She was sorry for the consequences, but not for the thought process that led her to sabotage her own brother's career prospects. Despite their imperfect understanding of their past behavior, I realized that they were finally experiencing genuine hardship that had stripped away their arrogance and entitlement. The natural consequences of their choices had taught them lessons that my arguments never could. "I'm willing to help with Dad's medical bills and prevent you from losing the house," I announced, causing visible relief to wash over their faces. "But there will be conditions that must be met before and during any financial assistance." I outlined my requirements. They would attend family counseling to address their dysfunction and favoritism. They would publicly acknowledge their past mistreatment to extended family members who had been deceived, and they would commit to treating all family members with equal respect and consideration. Additionally, Jessica would be required to find employment within 6 months and begin paying down her credit card debt through her own labor. My assistance would cover emergency medical and housing costs, but would not subsidize continued unemployment or irresponsible spending. Most importantly, I concluded, you need to understand that this assistance is based on mercy, not obligation. I owe you nothing after years of abuse and theft. I'm helping because I choose to show compassion, but I expect accountability and genuine change in return. The conditions were challenging, but fair, requiring them to address the root causes of their dysfunction rather than simply accepting financial rescue. Their willingness to meet these requirements would demonstrate whether they were capable of growth and change. Over the following months, my family slowly began meeting the conditions I had established. They attended counseling sessions that forced them to confront their patterns of favoritism and manipulation. Extended family members learned the truth about my departure and the circumstances that had driven me away. Jessica found employment at a local marketing firm and began paying down her debt through monthly installments. The work was challenging for someone accustomed to family support, but it provided her with independence and self-respect that she had never earned before. My parents' attitude toward me changed fundamentally as they recognized that my success was self-made rather than accidental. They began treating me with respect and appreciation instead of the dismissive tolerance I had experienced throughout my childhood. The transformation wasn't complete or perfect, but it represented genuine progress toward healthier family dynamics. More importantly, I learned that my greatest success wasn't financial wealth, but the emotional maturity to forgive people who had wronged me while still protecting myself from future abuse. My story taught me that family relationships must be built on mutual respect and genuine care, not genetic connections or social expectations. True success means having the strength to walk away from toxic situations, the wisdom to build something better through your own efforts, and the compassion to extend mercy when it's deserved. The revenge I had once imagined never materialized because it became unnecessary. The natural consequences of their choices provided more justice than any action I could have taken, while my success proved that their assessment of my worth had been completely wrong. Looking back, I realized that leaving my family was the most difficult and most important decision of my life. It required tremendous courage to walk away from everything familiar and rebuild my entire existence around different values and relationships. But that decision led to experiences and achievements I never could have imagined while trapped in their toxic dynamic. Building ConnectFlow, earning millions of dollars, and creating genuine professional relationships taught me lessons about my own capabilities that transformed how I saw myself and my potential. The most valuable lesson I learned was that your past doesn't determine your future unless you allow it to. People who underestimate you are providing an opportunity to prove them wrong through your actions and achievements. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the freedom to become who you're meant to be, regardless of other people's limitations or expectations. My 24th birthday began with rejection and a grocery store cake, but it ended with the first steps toward a life of independence and success. Sometimes the worst moments in our lives are actually doorways to our greatest achievements, if we have the courage to walk through them. To everyone listening who has felt undervalued or overlooked by the people closest to them, your worth isn't determined by their opinions or treatment. You have the power to build something better through your own efforts, and the family you create through genuine relationships will be more valuable than any connection based on blood alone. Now I want to hear from all of you who have made it through this entire journey with me. Have you ever had to walk away from toxic family relationships to protect your own future and well-being? What gave you the strength to choose your own path over family expectations? Please share your experiences in the comments below, because your stories might inspire someone else who is facing similar difficult decisions. If this story resonated with you and reminded you that success is possible despite difficult beginnings, please hit that like button to let me know it was worth sharing. Make sure to subscribe for more stories about overcoming adversity and building success through determination and hard work. And please share this story with anyone who might need to hear that their family's opinion of them doesn't define their potential. Sometimes people need to know that others have walked similar paths and found their way to better lives on the other side of difficult choices. Thank you for listening to my story and allowing me to share these deeply personal experiences with you. I hope it brings you comfort, inspiration, or simply the knowledge that you're not alone in whatever challenges you're facing. Until next time, remember that your future is in your hands, regardless of where you started or who believed in you along the way.